What's up, my friends? Welcome into another edition of Crossing the Line podcast. And without getting copyright strike or infringement of some kind, it is the NFL season. We are here. The guys got their NFL gear. I missed the memo, but we do have Mike Davella back. It's myself, Jack Molesky. It's Mike Davella. We're here, and the NFL season is upon us, guys. And by the time that this episode drops, the first game of the NFL season will have officially started. The Lions, the Chiefs. Obviously, we don't know what happens, but I got to be honest, guys. You know I love summer. You know I love baseball. Playoffs are right around the corner. At least two of our teams are going to make the playoffs this year. Sorry, Jack. But guys, I am so stoked for the NFL to be back.
Oh, yeah.
Fall is the best season. I mean, like, summer's fun. Summer's great. A lot of time off. But now my Sundays mean something again. And by mean something, I mean I sit on my ass for 7 to 10 hours straight and just watch Scott Hansen or Joe Buck or Troy Aikman make a fool of himself. I love Sundays.
7 commercial-free hours. Hell yeah.
The,
And that's not only the Sundays, it's all the weekend. Now, like last weekend was the college football's back. Let's ride. I mean, I was in Hawaii and I was watching college football on my phone. So that just goes to show what takes precedent in our lives. It's college football. It's NFL. Anything with a ball, we're chilling with it.
Last weekend was great because we got Dion and his new look Colorado team coming out and beating a top 20 team in the country. James Franklin absolutely knowing what the line was against West Virginia Saturday
Thank
night.
God he did.
Yeah, for a lot
Those
of
ring
us,
around the rosy motherfuckers deserved it.
Florida State crushing LSU and Brian Kelly, which makes me so happy because I hate that guy. But
Brian
that
Kelly?
was like, hate him, can't stand him. But
he's so likable.
That was the appetizer, right? That was the palate. You get the little bit of taste of football, and now we have a full weekend ahead. And we're going to talk a lot about it. We've got predictions. We've got Super Bowls. We got awards. We got Tyler tries to not look as stupid in his football picks as he does in his baseball picks 6 months ago. We're going to do a lot of it. We got a lot to do and a little bit of time. So let's jump right into it. Coming up next, we're here on Crossing the Line podcast. Yes, we are back. As we said, the NFL is in full swing. Game 1 happened earlier this week. We have a full week 1 slate of games. And before we get into our predictions, before we go division by division, guys, I just want to ask you, obviously we have 2 Eagles fans and a Dolphins fan here. It wouldn't change if Mark were here. We'd have 3 Eagles fans and a Dolphins fan. But I want to ask you guys, what are your objective outlooks for your team this year? And then what are your biased thoughts about your team going into 2023?
I can't believe that we're here, but my objective and my biased thoughts are one. I believe Super Bowl is in the cards. The NFC has never been more thin. You've got 3 contenders, maybe, and then the rest, I haven't seen more of a cliff from the top 3 seeds to the 4th seed in a long time. So you know that at the end of the day, the Eagles need to get past the Cowboys and the 49ers, and they're back in the Super Bowl. And I do think that they are going to be better than they were last year. Sure, they have the hiccups that they need to overcome defensively, but I truly believe that some of those players that are going into their 3rd, their 4th seasons, Devontae Smith being one that I fully expect to have an even bigger year than he had last year, just coupled with some of those offensive weapons they have. Being as objective as I can, and that definitely comes with a lot of bias, but just merging the two, I do think that they're going to make it back to the Super Bowl. Remains to be seen whether or not I'm going to pick them as the Super Bowl champion, because I think there are a lot of really talented teams in the AFC, but that's my expectation. I think it's Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah, my expectations would change a lot if we played in the other conference that's not the AFC. But since we play in the only conference that actually is good at football, it's a little bit different.
You had a 50-50 shot and you got it wrong.
Exactly. I didn't know they would start an arms race of quarterbacks over the last 5 years in the AFC, but here we are. I think objectively, and this all hinges on if Tua is healthy, right? Like, if Tua is healthy, objectively, this team should be no worse than 11-6. They were well on their way to a record like that last year with Tua healthy. When you look at the best offenses in the AFC, there's no reason why this team can't run and gun with the Chiefs or the Bengals if Tua stays healthy. They've got the weapons everywhere else. I think Mike McDaniels is going to make a big jump as a coach in year 2. And then if Tua is not healthy, then, it all goes by the wayside. I think the AFC is too tough to compete without an above average quarterback. I don't think Tua is in the elite status that some of those guys are, but when he's healthy, he's definitely above average. And with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, he can be closer to elite than not. But biased outlook is that they go all the way to the AFC Championship because, again, I think they can run and gun with everyone offensively if Tua is healthy. And Vic Fangio is going to change this defense, I think, a lot in the positive way. So if the defense takes that next step under Fangio and Tua stays healthy, I'll go 11-6 and at least a playoff berth as an objective outlook.
So, Jack, I think that everybody and their brother understands that the Dolphins season hinges on the health of Tua. And in order for your quarterback to stay healthy, you need an offensive line that's going to protect your quarterback. And of course, a quarterback to make smart decisions, especially when, he has a health injury, a past with health problems. So my question is, obviously, better than we do, can the offensive line make that leap into at least the good territory to protect your franchise quarterback or your supposed franchise quarterback?
They should be able to, but again, it's health, right? Because their best offensive lineman has a history of injuries. Granted, he's played through those injuries for the most part, but Teron Armstead is the guy that makes that offensive line go. They've had a lot of growth. Robert Hunt's turned into one of the best right guards in
Lafayette, baby.
Exactly. But like if Armstead is not there blocking the blind side of Tua, then a lot changes for this offense. That being said, I think, again, even last year with Armstead out for a couple games, McDaniel showed like he can scheme to get the ball out quick. The receivers are so fast that they can still get 10 yards downfield before the defense even has a chance to get to Tua. So I think it's equal parts Armstead healthy, but also like Tua's just got to understand that stay upright. I like go 3 and out, throw the ball away. I think he didn't do a good enough job of that last year. He still tries to run the ball too much. He's got to understand that they can go a long way if he stays healthy, but if he gets beat up early in the season, they don't have a big chance.
I totally forgot you guys got Bradley Chubb. When did that happen?
Yeah. That was a trade deadline last year. Yeah, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Ramsey. I mean, the defense is loaded with names, and I think Fangio's the guy that can bring it together. But again, when you play in the same division as the Bills, who will be good again, see what the Jets are. The Patriots are now the worst team in that division on paper. But
I don't think you have to say on paper. I think you could have stopped it in that division.
But then you look at the rest of the AFC, like it's not easy to play an easy schedule if you're an AFC team. I don't care like which division you match up with. Everyone's pretty good unless you're playing the Colts, the Jags, and the Titans and the Texans.
Think about it, Jack. And if you're a 4th place team in your division, right? Let's say you finished in last, and I believe the Patriots finished in last year. No, did the Jets or was it the Patriots?
Jets did, I believe.
The Jets, right? So the Jets are maybe a good example because you get the opportunity to play the 3 worst teams in the other 3 divisions. Now, of course, whoever you're getting in the AFC South, that you're going to play the Houston Texans. They're better, but they're still not good. The Raiders the Broncos they finished in last year, I believe, right in the AFC West. There should be improved because it's hard to get much worse. And then in the AFC North, you may have 4 teams that are competitive in the AFC North. So regardless of who you're going to play, and obviously, we're talking about the team that finished in last, but regardless of who you're going to play in that division, you're going to get a tough matchup, even if they're maybe not a good record-wise team. Like if you expect Cleveland or Pittsburgh to be the less talented or less successful team of the 4, it's the AFC is going to be a struggle, whereas the NFC, as Mike was pointing out, there's not a ton of competition.
No, there isn't. I mean, I agree with Mike's take, and I'm sure yours is similar with the Eagles. Like, you go to the Super Bowl and you lose to the best quarterback of our lifetimes in Patrick Mahomes by a field goal, and then you return the same offense basically. You return a lot of the same pieces on defense. Like, yeah, the expectation is Super Bowl, and it's a realistic expectation too. And I think 49ers are competition, but this is going to be an interesting year for them because like was Purdy what he was in the playoffs last year, or does a full season of Purdy look a lot different? Again, we've talked about this before, Zuli and Mike as well. Like, I don't think the 49ers need they're the only team that doesn't need a great quarterback to make it to the Super Bowl. But like, if Purdy is anywhere what he was in the playoffs last year, they're on an equal playing field as the Eagles once again.
The other thing too about the 49ers that's interesting to me from an Eagles perspective is that I think that their window is a pretty wide window. And not to say that the Eagles isn't, but look at their defense. And the reason that they're good is because of their defense. Like we said, you can plug in pretty much anybody at their quarterback position and they will have some sort of success based on the way Shanahan runs that team. But just the age of some of their stars. I mean, I'm not even going to read the ages, but I'm just reading their depth chart. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Talanoa Hufanga, like all these guys are 25 and under. Dre Greenlaw.
But
it's pretty impressive.
But Mike, the flip side to that, and it was something that I saw a tweet, it was outlining all of the, high paid top end talent. It was right after Bosa got his contract. The flip side of that too is you can only succeed in that large window of opportunity as long as your quarterback is not making a lot of money. That's why it's so pertinent and so important to have success with a quarterback on a rookie contract, where Patrick Mahomes won a Super Bowl on a rookie contract. Jalen Hurts got to a Super Bowl on a rookie contract. Russell Wilson won his Super Bowl on his rookie contract. Like it is because of the massive cap hit. Now you've got these GMs who are able to maneuver the cap much better than we've ever seen. But the minute you pay your quarterback top dollar, especially if they're not a quarterback who is a stud, right? Like Jalen Hurts gets paid, makes sense. Joe Burrow is going to get paid, makes sense, right? But you're paying Daniel Jones, you're paying Brock Purdy, you're paying those type of quarterbacks big time money. Eventually, the well dries out, and so your window shrinks significantly once you start to pay those guys. You mentioned Hufanga; he hasn't been paid yet. I think he's on a was he a 5th round pick? He's on a super cheap. He's on a super cheap deal. He's going to get big time safety money. Like eventually, the well has to dry up because it just can't be sustainable forever.
Yeah, sure. Are we convinced that there's an NFL salary cap though? Because other than the Rams, I haven't seen a single team suffer.
I still don't understand how Howie Roseman's doing what he's doing, because they're basically just saying, we're taking this off the books. Here's your guaranteed money. Do whatever the hell you want. We have plenty of more where this came from for anybody else who wants it. It's
monopoly money at this point.
They don't care. It's like a bunch of Steve Cohens, and they're just throwing out money the way they can, any way they can.
Half of Jalen Hurts' contract is getting direct deposited from offshore accounts on the Cayman Islands.
Yeah,
it's going through the Bahamas.
Totally off the books. Yeah.
Jalen Hurts is actually now majority owner of companies we've never heard of before.
Jalen Hurts actually just acquired FTX for $1.
All right, guys, we got a lot of divisions to break down, and we're a little bit tight on time today. So we'll do this thing division by division. You give me your winner, you give me a brief synopsis, and we'll go through and we'll put together our playoff pictures together. Why don't we start in the AFC East, since we started today's show talking about Jack's Dolphins? And Jack, I'm going to let you go first. I know that it's hard to put bias aside sometimes, but the Dolphins are a very legitimate team. If you say they win the division, I'm not going to go, you're crazy. So, Jack, you're up. AFC East winner.
Yeah, AFC East winner is the Dolphins if Tua stays healthy. I truly think that they are I think they're a better team than the Bills this year if Tua is healthy. I'm not convinced. The Bills haven't shown me anything recently that they can get over the hump of being like from good to great. So don't win the division to itself. And I agree with you. So I think the Patriots are last by like a considerable margin this year. I think they're going to be pretty darn bad.
They're going to be, the funny thing with the Patriots too is they're going to be competitive strictly because of defense. Like I think you're going to see a lot of Patriots games where you go, whoa, the line 8.5 and 14-7 at half, and by the end of the fourth quarter, it's 31-10. And you go, well, that looks like a blowout, but it's just the defense gets worn. They have a good defense. There's no doubt in my mind. They're going to hold, like the Eagles line this week is at 4. And I know they're going on the road, but the Eagles should be heavy favorites against a bad pay team. And the fact that it's 4 tells you that Vegas thinks that that defense is going to be competitive for most of the year. So I think their record's going to look ugly, like 5-12 ugly, but you're going to see a point differential that, if you look at first half split versus second half split or first half split versus game split, it's going to be two entirely different stories.
Yeah. And I think
Mike,
who's their cornerback? Jack Jones is not playing either. So their starter is going to be Christian Gonzalez.
Just Christian Gonzalez.
As a first game in the NFL. And then, I don't know who else they're going to throw out there, but that'll be interesting going against, especially with that line being 4. I would go with the Eagles to cover, but again, bias.
So
AFC East. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say Jack's taking the Dolphins to win the division. We'll see if you get a wild card team in just a second. But Mike, you're a division winner.
You know what? I am also going with Jack. I'm going Dolphins. I think. I mean, I'll save the wild cards for later, but I do think it'll be pretty tight between Buffalo and Miami. I think that the New York Jets are so overinflated, it's insane. I'm sure they have talent, but again, you're looking at basically the equivalent of what Aaron Rodgers had last year, one way or another. I think that defense is maybe a little bit better, so they may have an extra win in them versus what you saw last year, but I don't think it's good enough to get them to the top of, such a stacked conference. I'm going Miami, and they're pretty easy.
I've been back and forth with this division. I've been back and forth with a couple of divisions, but this one specifically. I am going to take the Buffalo Bills to win the division. But I don't, you see the look on my face, I don't do it super confidently, which is like the worst place to be in broadcasting, say it with your chest. But I'm not saying this with my chest. I'm saying this like from like the lump in my throat. I don't love this division to pick. I'm going to take Buffalo because of the experience. But the Dolphins are a darn good football team. And I think all 3 of us, well, you 2 for sure, and I'm just going to spoil one of my wild cards. The Dolphins are going to make the playoffs. I think
you spoiled our wild card.
Sure, we'll go with the Bills to be in the wild card.
Yeah, right. So listen, I think when it comes down to it, the Dolphins have better skill position players. They probably have the best receiving core in the world right now. When it comes down to it, can Josh Allen be Hercules? And I think he can more than not. I mean, you're going to get games where he loses 9-6 and you go, well, what the hell did we just watch? But I think you're going to get a lot of games where you go, Josh Allen is battling for the team's life. I'm going to take the Bills to win the division, and I'm going to take the Dolphins to be one of the wild card teams.
Yeah, I think it comes. I'm not shocked if this comes down to the last week or the last 2 weeks, and I agree with you. I think whoever doesn't win that division is a shoo-in for a wild card.
One of the other ones that I have battled back and forth with is the AFC North. It could be a really good division. We don't know entirely with Pittsburgh and Cleveland, but it has the makings of what could potentially be the best division in football, right up there with the AFC East. Mike, I'll start with you this time. Division winner coming out of the AFC North.
Yeah, this one's another tough one. I feel like with Miami, it's a little bit more of the sleeper pick off the beaten path versus what most people would do in going with the Bills. I'm going to stick chalk here. I'll probably go with the Bengals to win that division, but you're right. It's going to be a really difficult division to win. I think you're looking at another 11 or 12 win division winner at most, maybe even. I mean, I don't think you're going to get a 10 win division winner, but I think 11 wins gets the job done. And I think that's where, you'll see the Bengals end up.
Yeah, this is another one where Pittsburgh's not going to be as bad as they were last year, but I don't think they're next.
You're high on Pittsburgh.
I'm not. I'm high on.
Oh, you're not.
I'm high on the fact that like I'm so low on Najee Harris.
I know you
are. I'm like I like a lot of their players, but I just don't think like those pieces necessarily amount to a great season for them. And I think part of it is because I like almost every team not named the Browns in that division better, and the Browns are like a toss-up with Pittsburgh. I'm going to go Ravens. I won't spoil some other stuff later in the show, but I'm high as hell on the Ravens this year. I think Lamar Jackson has a very good bounce-back season in this new-look offense. I'm high on Zay Flowers. I think he becomes the #1 target for Lamar Jackson that he hasn't really had throughout his career. And I think part of it is because they They've always run the ball really, really well. And if J.K. Dobbins continues to improve, he's going to be a very unsung hero on this team because he can shoulder the load if he stays healthy. And he's lost a step because of that ACL injury, but I still think he's a really, really good running back inside the tackles, and I think they're going to be dangerous this year.
You could put a traffic cone as the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, and it would do a better job than what Greg Roman did in his final 2 seasons. It was putrid to watch. Like, we have a lot of former colleagues and friends that are Ravens fans, and watching them suffer was like secondhand pain because it was banging your head against the brick wall watching Greg Roman's offense.
I don't know. There are a couple of Baltimore fans then we all know who we're talking about that I was fine with them suffering.
That's the thing. I feel like we've talked about this earlier on the show in other episodes. For whatever reason, I've always felt some sort of solidarity, kind of what Penn State fans and Michigan State fans have with Baltimore. It's like, I'm not threatened by Baltimore teams. There's not really any affiliation. However, for whatever reason, Baltimore hates Philadelphia. And they, like, at least a lot of the people that I know.
I mean, to be fair, I hate Philadelphia too.
Well, true. But so does Alec Bohm. But it's just a matter of me feeling like, all right, I'm sitting here like, oh, I'm excited for you and your team. And then we come around and you hear them talk about Philly, and I'm like, all right, well, why should I be rooting for your team? So I don't know.
To be fair, I think
somewhat deserves it.
Everyone talks about Philly that way except for Philly, so I don't know.
Including Philly.
I don't know if that's unique to Baltimore.
Listen, I have said this many times to you guys on and off the air, not related to the NFL, but do you know who hates the Sixers the most?
You.
It's Sixers fans.
James Harden.
Yeah, it's Sixers fans.
It's James Harden.
We're tired. We're tired of this shit, Grandpa. That's too damn bad.
Ben Simmons likes the Sixers more than I do.
Listen, I don't think anybody deserves the inner circle of hell that Greg Roman's offense was. So no. I think the Ravens. I agree with everything you said, Jack. I think the Ravens are gonna be a vast improvement, especially with a healthy Lamar, with a new contract. They're gonna be really, really good. But when it comes to skill position players, nobody in that division tops the Cincinnati Bengals. And Joe Burrow is still going to be Joe Burrow. It may take him a couple weeks to get back to full capacity with the ankle sprain. But I would not be surprised if this team continues to roll. I like the Bengals a lot this year. I'm going to take Cincinnati to win the North. But I do like the Ravens as a close two. All right, let's go to the ugliest division in football because this one might take us 12 seconds to
Should we all just say it at the same time?
Yeah, all right, ready? AFC South, 3, 2, 1.
Jaguars. Next.
Wrap it up.
I don't want to talk about it.
The rest
None of those other 3
suck.
teams are making the playoffs. They all suck. Let's move on. You might have 3 teams in the top 8 selections next year.
Do those 3 teams at the bottom combine for 10 combined wins?
Yeah, because somebody's got to beat each other.
Yep, that's the only reason. 100%.
So you figure,
and honestly, the just because I trust Mike Vrabel a little bit, like the Titans aren't going to be a dumpster fire the way Houston and the Colts might be. But
well, they might be if Mayo Boy starts playing quarterback for them.
God, we can only hope.
God help the people in Tennessee if that's the case.
We can only hope.
All right, let's move on. AFC West will be more competitive this year, at least with 3 of the 4 teams. I think we can rule out the Vegas Raiders as division winners unless one of you wants to get really bold. But Jack, we'll start with you. AFC West.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me the last 4 or 5 years because it was supposed to be the Chargers year. I'm a fucking idiot. Don't bet against the king. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's the Chiefs. I just don't the Chargers should always be better than they are. And I actually am high on them this year because I think Kellen Moore is the difference maker on that offense. But the only 2 of their 3 or 4 biggest weapons are very injury prone in Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. And that's why Justin Herbert hasn't been elite so far in his career because he's barely had his weapons out on the field, not named Austin Eckler. So I just can't pick them for that reason. So yeah, it's the Chiefs until proven otherwise.
I think you have 2 words. 2 words are the biggest concern for the LA Chargers this year. Brandon Staley. And until that bozo is no longer the head coach of the football team, I have to keep them at arm's length.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong. He won't be if they do what they did last year and just underperform again, like Kellen Moore becomes the head coach of that team
Almost
in the
assuredly.
offseason. I think they put him in the position he is now because one screw up by Staley, he's out, Moore's in. But yeah, he's kind of an idiot.
Yeah, we all know I can be extremely long-winded at times. It's the Chiefs. Let's move on.
I think that it is close because Patrick Mahomes is about to drag a middle school offensive unit into battle.
You take that back about Sky Moore.
Until Travis Kelce's 100%. I like Sky Moore a lot. I thought he did a really nice job at Western Michigan, but it's Noah Gray. It's
Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, it's Kadarius Toney banged up. It's listen, I think Rashee Rice is going to be a really good NFL receiver, but it's too early to tell. It's Isaiah Pacheco, who I still, even though he had a nice year, don't trust.
Top 5 running back of all time.
Pop.
Yeah, in NCAA football 24, maybe.
According to Isaiah Pacheco, he is number 5 on the greatest list of running backs.
That's incredible. Good for him for putting himself on that. But listen, sometimes you got to believe in yourself because nobody else will.
It's not Rutgers education, guys. Come on.
Yeah, we got a Wendy's.
Patrick Mahomes is about to bring the Walking Dead into Arrowhead to play 17 games, or at least 8 games there. With that being said, he's still Patrick Mahomes, and I think he could throw to the three of us and make it work. I'm taking the Chiefs. It's not going to be pretty at times, and I don't think that they win those like they're going to get in a lot of slugfest games, but I'm still going to take the Chiefs to win the division.
Yeah. So do we all just need a couple more wild card teams?
Yep. And obviously one of them for me is the Dolphins. I assume one of them for both of you guys is the Buffalo Bills.
Correctamundo. The Ravens.
I think for me it's and for you probably, Zuli, it's the Ravens. For me, it's the Bengals, and then I think it's the Chargers, right?
Chargers. It's going to be chalk from last year, probably.
Yeah, I agree. I think. No, you're going elsewhere.
I am. I'm going elsewhere.
He wants the Steelers.
I'd love to pick the Steelers. If I'm picking a team to be like my dark horse candidate this year, it's the Steelers. However, you lowballed the Jets a little bit. I'm not so sure that they're elite. Let me rephrase that. I know they're not elite, but I'm not so sure they're this dumpster fire that you were alluding to, Mike, earlier in the show. That defense is good.
Yeah, no, they
Robert
are good.
Saleh's a really
They'll win
good
9 games.
Coach. I think if they get to 10, that's enough to get into the playoffs. And really what it comes down to is don't get swept by the Bills, don't get swept by the Dolphins. If you split with those two teams and you sweep New England, that's 4 division wins. You got to find 6 wins somewhere along the way in a last place schedule. And I know we talked about it. That doesn't mean anything. It's a little bit more difficult. But I think with Aaron Rodgers, even as he gets a little bit older, that team should find a way to get to 10-7. And I think that gets them into the playoffs.
That's fair. I think it's.
Go ahead,
Jack.
I was just going to say my biggest thing with the Jets is
go.
I look at their regular season schedule and to me, the first 6 games determine the entire season because you play Buffalo to start, tough game. Then you're at Dallas. Then tough your game. First winnable game is New England at home. Then you go Kansas City, at Denver, and then against Philadelphia. There's a very real possibility that it's a 2-4 team after 6 weeks, and then you're really behind the 8 ball. I think minimum you got to go 500 in those first 6 games, and that means beating one of the Cowboys on the road, the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, or the Philadelphia Eagles. Those are all at home, so that's good for the Jets, but that's a really, really tough schedule to start the season, and I just think they could find themselves in a bigger hole than they can dig out of before we know it.
Which by the way, is
6 games in that division.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is why I've been thinking about Pittsburgh for so long, because the inverse is true. Your first 2 games, or your first after San Francisco, of course. Which, by the way, the line is creeping closer and closer to Pittsburgh. I don't know if that's just a bait line or what, but you've got Cleveland at home. You go to Vegas. You go to Houston. You have an early bye. You go to play the Rams. You have to play the Titans. You play Green Bay. You play Cleveland again at home. You've got the Cardinals, the Patriots at Indianapolis. there's a lot of winnable games on the Steelers' schedule. If you can overcome
Yeah.
some obstacles and split with Baltimore, maybe even split with Cincinnati, win a game like in Seattle, perhaps late in the season, it wouldn't stun me if the Steelers are a playoff team this year. I think Kenny Pickett's going to make a nice jump in year 2 to like a mid-tier good quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think Mike and I are on chalk from last year, but I don't think the Jets are bad. Steelers, I just don't think there's enough room at the party for them. There's no reason to pick anyone else in the AFC South. And then like the Raiders are not going to be good, and the Broncos, I don't think they're going to be worse, but I don't think last year was a fluke with Russell Wilson. I don't think he's good anymore. And
I think that team's not very talented either.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the NFC. I think that we'll start in the division that has 2 of the 3 teams that Mike was alluding to earlier. It's the NFC East. So we'll do our best, just like Jack did, to put our bias aside. To me, guys, this is the Eagles' division still. I think you're going to get a repeat winner for the first time since 2003, 2004, when the Eagles did it 4 straight times. You've not had a repeat division winner since that. That shows you the parity that the NFC East has gone through and the cycles that it's gone through. I'm not even going to pretend to like hold this pick till later. The Dallas Cowboys are going to make the playoffs too. They're a really good football team. They're top heavy, but they're super, super talented. I think the Eagles are just slightly better in the departments that matter most, and they're significantly better at the one that matters the most, which is the quarterback position. I'm not going to waste too much of your guys' time. I believe both these teams make the playoffs. I'm taking the Eagles based on roster construction and the quarterback play.
What he said, Jack.
I can't put it much better. Eagles should win. Cowboys will be a wild card team a couple games back. I don't think the Giants or the Commanders are bad this year either. I think every team in this division finishes above 500, but I just think the Eagles and the Cowboys are still in a class of their own, with the Giants and the Commanders falling a little bit behind on the skill positions and the quarterback battle there.
All right, so this is probably 2 of the better teams in the NFC, but it's maybe not a super intriguing division behind those 2 because of what you guys said. It might be a really good division, but I think that it's those 2, and then it's the other 2, and there's a gap in between. So let's go to one that I've heard a lot of arguments about. It's the NFC North.
It's the most fun division in football this year.
It's tough.
You can make a case for all 4 teams, and I couldn't say you're wrong.
I wouldn't. My one team that I really wouldn't want to touch is Green Bay. Just Chicago's got a ton of unknowns too, but I almost feel more comfortable knowing what Chicago has and knowing how much they spent this year. While I don't know that that's enough to get a playoff spot out of them, I'm taking Detroit as the NFC North champs this year. I do think that they're going to finally take that next step, especially with some of the acquisitions they've made. Minnesota is very suspect to me. The fact that they had 13 wins last year was by sheer luck, in my opinion. They had how many wins with 1 score at the end of the game?
Yeah, it's well documented. They were undefeated in 1-score games. You're never going to play that way, especially with like if you go 2-0 in 1-score games, you can duplicate. Yeah. You go 9-0 in 1-score games, insane. even if you have if you're 6-3 in those 1-score games, which is still an insanely good record in close games. You go from 13 to 10. Is 10 enough to get you into the playoffs in the NFC? Maybe, yes. But it's a question mark at this point compared to your 13 last year.
Right, yeah. And you're also going from Dalvin Cook to Alexander Mattison, who I do like. I think that he's shown flashes of being a really dependable back. But how much are you really going to – like, if they sustain one injury to either Cousins or to Justin Jefferson, they're done. They are so susceptible. I don't think that they have as much talent spread out across the table that other teams do. And for that matter, I mean, you can't, the reason they won so many games is because they have the best receiver in football, and Kirk Cousins did his job. And I just, it's too volatile of a team to expect them to do what they did last year. Yeah, he is good, but
he's good.
And I like Jordan Addison too, but I don't trust them.
I don't mean to like have that be a knock. Like, he's a good quarterback, but he's not going to, he won't lose you a ton of games. He's done it before, and like the primetime stuff is different. But like, I don't think he's going to be the key reason you lose games, but I don't believe he's ever going to be the reason you win games.
No.
And so you have to find a way to manufacture those wins like they did last year. So Mike, you're going with Detroit. Jack?
This is a tough one. Green Bay, again, is probably the only team that is not in consideration for me because they're starting the wrong quarterback. Make it make sense. I don't know. Sean Clifford would win you this division. But I think I'm going to go with, and this is weird of me to say because I don't think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. I can't like back off on this hill, but I think the Chicago Bears are going to win this division. I don't trust Minnesota. I think the Lions they're going to be like a slightly better version of what they were last year, which was an incredibly fun team to watch and like a team that is a must-have, a couple players for your fantasy squad. But something about them, I still don't see their defense being able to necessarily sustain a high level of play throughout the season. And I think the Bears, while Fields isn't a good throwing quarterback, he's a very good running back that lines up under center a lot of times. And I think that they're
Give this
going
man
to
no credit.
I think they're going to game plan very well. And when he throws the ball this year, he actually has a true number one receiver in DJ Moore, who's going to help him out with some of those wobbly errant throws. So give me the Chicago Bears to win this division.
DJ Moore. It's in the
Jack,
game.
so you just brought up that the Lions might be a slightly better version of themselves from last year, which is plausible. And I don't mean to discredit what you're saying because it's certainly plausible in the fact that that could be the case. They missed the playoffs on a tiebreaker a year ago. What changes in a bad division, in a bad conference, that's not good enough with their slight upgrade to get them one more victory to get them to 10 to win this division? I like the Bears. I think they're improving. I think they finished second in the division because I think Green Bay stinks, and I think Minnesota is going to falter big time. I could see the Bears finishing in second in this division with like 8. But the one stat that I'm so tired of hearing, and I really look forward to it ending, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won the Lions division more recently than the Lions. Not going to happen. I think the Lions win the North.
Yeah, the Lions are going to be fun. It's wild that I don't know. It's wild that I think that they also would have made the playoffs last year if Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't get injured. Like I think that's the part everyone's overlooking. If he stays healthy, he's electric. They have a ton of fun players. I'm interested to see what Jahmyr Gibbs looks like. It's tough not to like him. Dan Campbell's a football man's man twice over.
Football man's man.
Yeah, fighting. Like
Dan, how much caffeine?
Get him, Dan.
Today?
Get him.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm
but
seeing colors, and I'm hearing colors, and I'm seeing words.
Yep. But yeah, that it's gonna be fun. Like
Tone
that's
down the quadruple espresso shots.
It's funny how there's a lot of, to me, there, like if you look at the different divisions, like AFC East, NFC East, they're very comparable. AFC North is probably the most open division in the AFC. NFC North's most open division. We're about to go to the shittiest division in the NFC, which also happens to be the shittiest division in the AFC. Like there are a lot of parallels between these North and South divisions and vice versa in the two conferences.
The only difference in the dreck of the South divisions between the two is that the AFC has a clear best team. Correct. And the NFC does not. Guys, there's a very likely chance we might get 3 separate picks for the NFC South division winner. Mike, we'll start with you.
New Orleans. I hate to do it. Sorry, Jill.
Never.
New Orleans.
and not only are we're gonna have no different picks. So New Orleans is gonna like. They're the only team that I think can sniff double-digit wins in this conference.
I don't know about that.
Rather,
I think 8 wins gets it done again.
No, I don't think they need to, but I think people are underestimating like Derek
this
Carr.
Many.
Yeah, I think Derek Carr is going to have a better season than people expect him to have. And I always trust the Saints defense to be solid, and then they're going to look really, really good when they go up against the Falcons. The Buccaneers are going to be bad, like really bad, really, really bad. I think Bucks finished last, Saints finished on top, and whoever performs better out of Bryce Young or Bijan Robinson, pick that team to finish second.
I don't think the Bucks are going to finish last. I think they still have so many talented players that people forget about, but it does come down to quarterback play, and they just don't have it anymore, losing Brady. So I think they'll probably end up winning 6 games, 6 or 7. And I think it's going to be a very similar you might have 3, 7, and 10 teams again at the bottom of that division. It's going to
Yeah.
be very even.
Yeah, it's certainly plausible. Guys, real quick before we leave this division, because I'm picking the Saints too. Tannehill, Young twice, Love, Mayfield slash Trask twice, Mac Jones, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff is maybe the best. Well, Lawrence is the best actually. That the ones they play. These are the quarterbacks that the Saints play this year. They don't play Hurts. They don't play Mahomes. They don't play all the good quarterbacks. They're not playing.
And the Saints are my fantasy defense.
It's the way to, honestly, not a bad decision to go. Derek Carr is the best quarterback in this division for now. Mike, you and I both love Bryce Young. Jack, you and I talked about Bryce Young. Huge upside, huge potential. But I think for this season alone, I am also taking the New Orleans Saints. All right, let's go to the NFC West. This one is a 2-team race probably, and it's really like a 1 and 2, and it's a distant 2. But I'll let you guys expound.
Yeah, it's the 49ers. Again, much like the Eagles, it's their division to lose, and there's one team that could do it in the Seattle Seahawks, but I just don't see them pushing the envelope enough. But I think Seattle's going to be a fun team again this year. I'll give away another wild card pick. They're wild card team for me. I just think the 49ers have been doing it the way they've been doing it for so long and having so much success. And I was going to say, like, if McCaffrey gets injured, if Deebo Samuel gets injured, it actually doesn't matter with the 49ers. Like, unless their entire starting offense and defense gets injured, they're going to win this division because they just scheme so well against every single team. So yeah, give me the 49ers. Seattle as a second wild card.
The 49ers schedule is
same deal for you, Mike.
Pretty dang interesting. To start, they should win 6, 7 games in a row, and it's going to be far and away the winner for me in the West. I don't know. I don't dislike Seattle. I really like Smith and Jigba, especially if he's healthy to start the year, which we'll see. But I think that the Seattle Seahawks may be one of the teams that regresses to start this year. I think they might even go 8 and 9. I really even see Los Angeles, assuming that Cooper Kupp is okay and doesn't miss too much time, being, the number 2 team in that division. I think it's going to be a pretty big gap between the 49ers and whoever ends up finishing second in that division.
I think that you're going to get quarterback play regression a little bit from both of these teams because Brock Purdy stinks, and I will die on that hill the way that Jack is dying on the Justin Fields hill. They have no quarterback, and I understand that their offense or their team is really, really good. So that doesn't mean that they're not going to win the division because they are. And Geno Smith probably takes a step back because he was so damn good last year, and it kind of came out of nowhere. But the thing with Geno Smith that a lot of people don't recognize, they just looked at, wow, all of a sudden the Seahawks are good, Geno's balling. Geno doesn't turn the football over. He doesn't fumble a lot. His completion percentage is up at 70% for most of the season. He is a really, really, really protective quarterback of the football. And when your quarterback protects the football and your defense plays well, you're going to win a lot of games. This division is going to be closer than it probably has a right to be by talent differential between these two teams. The 49ers are really, really good. I could absolutely see them getting back to the NFC title game. I could even see them getting into the Super Bowl this year. But this division is going to be close. I really like Seattle this year. I'm taking San Francisco, but Seattle is going to make the playoffs.
Yep, and I'll go with my other wild card team because it's the Lions. I think they will make the playoffs. I was almost going to pick the Giants, but I think some tiebreaker will decide this, and the Lions will win the tiebreaker. So yeah, Lions, Seahawks, and Cowboys are my 3 wild card picks.
Mike?
I'm going definitely Cowboys. I think that one was a given. That one is an easy wild card one. Outside of that, it's kind of tough. I feel like New York and Washington's going to be they're both going to be in the conversation. Truthfully, it might be off the beaten path, but I'm kind of leaning Washington to take one of those spots this year.
Damn you, Mike. I thought I was going to be cool. I was going to be hip. I'm taking the Commanders to make the playoffs.
They're my number 2.
I don't even get to sound cool now.
I'm sorry.
stand up. Who are we?
The
Commander.
I'm taking Arizona. You know what, Arizona?
Arizona. Yeah. Come on.
But they still have Colt McCoy, maybe.
And then, this is the biggest one for me that's tough because I don't believe in Minnesota this year. But in terms of premier talent, I'm going to give them that last wild card spot. I think that Washington actually doesn't get the last wild card spot, but I'm going to go Minnesota, Washington, and Dallas.
I am going to take Dallas, Seattle, and I am going to take Washington as well. I really like that defense. If Sam Howell can play even a little bit, which we don't know, Ron Rivera swears he can, but we still don't know 100%. We saw it in a really small sample size. He looked decent, but we'll see what happens over the course of 17 games. Jacoby Brissett is the backup, so if something happens to Sam Howell, you're not losing a ton. You have one of the league's premier backups in Brissett. They have skill position players too. They got 2 good running backs. They have 2, maybe 3 good receivers. Tight end game is Logan Thomas is hit or miss, but I feel really strongly that Washington's going to surprise a lot of people this year and make the playoffs. I think the Giants finish in last in the NFC East. So I'll take 3. I will take the Dallas Cowboys, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Washington Commanders to make the playoffs.
Jacoby Brissett's actually just Jalen Hurts if they're both only play from the 1-yard line.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Dude, I had no idea where you were going. Jacoby Brissett is a good QB sneak quarterback, is what you're saying.
He is one of the best in the game.
All right, I was like, wait, where are you going with this?
I wouldn't be shocked if you saw that a lot in Washington this year. If they get to the 1-yard line, just bring in the brisket.
Tush push. Yeah, but does he squat 600 pounds?
I don't know. He was a little old. He's before the social media time, so I don't think he buys into that.
Come on, he's a one-man show. Gretzky didn't become Gretzky by passing the puck.
All right, guys. So we've got
Even
our
though
playoff
he did.
teams.
It's a great quote, but
time.
can we talk about that? He literally led the league in points if he didn't have a single goal. Gretzky was Gretzky.
That's why it's a funny quote.
It's a great quote.
Shout out to Radon Randell. Great TV character.
All right, guys. It's time. We're running out of time here. Jack has to leave us shortly. Give us, what do we get? Super Bowl 55, 54, 55. I don't even know what Super Bowl this is this year.
Yeah. 54.
Something. 50 something. Yeah, I only know is the Eagles lost last year. Give me your Super Bowl predictions. Give me your AFC winner, your NFC winner, and your eventual Super Bowl fill in the blank champion.
You want to go first, Jack?
Well, you know what scares me?
They were too silent to speak.
You know what scares me is I've seen people pick a Dolphins-Eagles Super Bowl multiple times, and I just don't like having the team that's the trendy pick to win the Super Bowl and the Dolphins because it never, ever, ever works out that way. It was the Chargers last year, and they got just swept out of that first round of the playoffs after laying an egg in the second half. So
I fell for that one. I picked the Chargers.
I hate expectations, probably because I haven't felt that expectations for my NFL football team in my lifetime.
Is this emotions?
I'm gonna go.
Jack is feeling emotions?
Just when it comes to sports. I won't cry. I'm gonna go with the Eagles. I toss up between them and the 49ers for best team in the NFC, but you got to have a great quarterback to win in this league. And so the Eagles win that battle big time over the 49ers, no matter who they trot out there. I like the 49ers defense a little bit more. I like their run game, other than inside the 5-yard line a little bit more, but I like the Eagles quarterback and wide receivers a lot more. So we'll go with the Eagles. And then just because I said don't bet against the king, I'm going to, because everyone's going to pick the Chiefs, but they're not as good this year. Their supporting cast is not as good. So my MVP pick this season will lead the Baltimore Ravens to the Super Bowl, and Lamar Jackson wins his second MVP and takes the Ravens to the Super Bowl, and it's a battle of the birds.
That would be an incredible offensive game. I mean, that would be so much fun to sit down and watch for everybody that's not a Ravens and an Eagles fan, just like it was last year. I got to imagine, Jack, you watching that as a Dolphins fan, you're just like, wow, this is a damn good offensive game. This is just fun. And
as someone that bet the over, I was having a blast.
You're right. Me and Mike are sitting there pounding beers trying to feel comfortable. But
this is the worst day of my life.
For a Ravens-Eagles Super Bowl, it would be so much fun to watch. Mike.
Yep.
Jack, you know what? I really was close. I was grappling with that pick. Did you pick a winner, by the way? Or are we doing that? Or are we just saying who's going to be in the Super Bowl?
I thought it was just Super Bowl picks, but if we're picking winners, I mean, fuck it. He's the MVP. Ravens win.
Okay.
Back-to-back Super Bowl losses would be tough to stomach.
I can't deal with that. I am gonna go with what my gut has been for a while now. I do think that this team, to me, I've seen a lot of picks for the Bills, and I just don't know that they have the defense for it. And I think that the issues with Stephon Diggs are going to prove too great. And I also feel like the same thing can be said about the Chiefs. It's really difficult to get back. The only reason I think the Eagles are going to get back is just because of the division that they play in and the conference. So I'm picking Eagles and Bengals, and I'm taking the Eagles to win. I really do think that, this is the year that they finally have the ability to win, and I think they're going to be the Bengals are a better match for them than the Chiefs were last year.
So an AFC North, NFC East Super Bowl is clearly upon us, which means it's going to be Jacksonville and the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Listen, it's hard to take bias out of these picks, but this might be the best Eagles team of our lifetime because the quarterback is legit. The skill position players are legit. The offensive line is probably still the best offensive line of football. If you want to ask what the question marks are, it's the linebacking core and the safety, right? You're going to be running out a second year undrafted free agent safety, and probably Terrell Edmonds as the other safety, and Sidney Brown's eventually going to take over. There's question marks on the defense, no doubt, but the front seven is so fierce, and they're so deep, and they're coached so well. And this team is in the NFC. They're the best team still, even if they're the best team, even though San Francisco is the best roster. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know how to describe that.
Yeah, because quarterback has if you were to give points to each position, quarterback is going to get 10 points, and the other ones are going to get 2. So that ends up putting them up top.
I'm going to agree with you guys. I think barring Jalen Hurts' injury, this team is getting back to the Super Bowl, and it is going to sting immensely when they lose a second consecutive time. Because much like you, Jack, I'm going to take my NFL MVP pick this year to take his team to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. This sucks so much to say. Joe Burrow and the Bengals are going to host the Lombardi Trophy this year, and they're going to beat the Eagles.
Like that pick against you. I would never.
It's gross. It sucks. I don't want to sit here and say it. It makes me miserable to say that the Eagles are going to lose back-to-back Super Bowls. But I think that the skill set that the offensive skill set that the Bengals have matches or is as close to what the Eagles have, other than the Dolphins. But Burrow and Hurts, and then it's Tua.
Until this year. I just hope he stays healthy. I just want to know what one season of healthy Tua looks like. That's all I
think you're going to get really good football. If you get 16, 17 games up to it, you're going to get really good football.
Yeah. I have to say the NFL right now is extremely exciting. I do think that there are a lot of unbelievably talented players that are just starting to scratch the surface, and that makes it so much more fun. It makes me want to go like tonight. I don't know that I would watch many. I know it's the first game of the season, but watch many Thursday night football games that my team isn't a part of, and just going in and being able to see, I'm like, all right, let's see what the Lions are about. Who was going to say that 5 years ago or even a year ago? So it's going to be exciting this year, and I'm just excited for football.
Hell yeah.
All right, boys, we'll go enjoy Thursday night football. The 2023 season kicks off tonight. You'll see this video tomorrow. You'll know a winner. Go enjoy Thursday night football. Enjoy the NFL season. Come back in 18 weeks or so and absolutely rip our predictions. But we are going to let this thing, we're going to wrap this thing up because Jack has places to be and Mike and I have a couch to go find to watch the kickoff of the NFL season. So for Mike Davella and Jack Molesky, I'm Tyler Zulli saying thanks so much for hanging out with us. And we will talk to you next week right here on Crossing the Line podcast.
To and on. Expect us.